Welcome to the Josh Hall Web Design Show. Helping you build better websites and create a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9. This is an interview with a local colleague of mine, Alex Rogers. We actually went to high school together, graduated in the same class, and then completely lost touch for well over a decade until a couple years ago when I found out that he left the corporate world and with a friend of his who was also in that corporate job with him, who is also coincidentally named Alex, together they decided to leave their job and start a social media advertising and marketing agency called Alex's Social. So this talk was fascinating through and through. We talk about their entire journey with leaving a cushy corporate job into the wild west of freelance, and they're not doing websites, but they are doing social media and things in and around web design. And the really cool thing about this talk is that the overarching conversation that we had was about being an entrepreneur as a parent, or a parent-preneur, as the cool kids are calling it these days. And it's interesting because we had two different ways to look at this. Alex was already a parent when he decided to jump ship from the corporate job and start his own freelance business. Whereas I had already had my freelance business up and running for several years before I became a parent. But we talk about the difference between, already being a parent and then being a parent after your business has already started. So we talk a lot about the ins and outs of being a parent, being an entrepreneur, the highs and the lows that you'll experience. Alex was very transparent and very real about what he has gone through and what he continues to go through. And I'll let you hear in this episode, but Alex really went through some heavy stuff in his life. And one of the reasons that he decided to go freelance is because he wanted more time with his kids. And you'll hear in this interview, there's so many things that you're going to be able to take away and apply to your business. If you are a parent-preneur or if you have a business and you one day want to become a parent, lot of really great things in this. I really want to thank Alex for being transparent and real because we talk about so many things that are going to be so beneficial for you guys. So super excited for you to hear this interview. Before we dive in, this one is brought to you by my web design process course. If you're building websites and every build seems to just be like a chaotic mess, you wish you had some kind of roadmap that you could follow from start to finish, that's what my web design process course is. It's a 50-point checklist that me and my business use, and I go into each point in detail, which will get your projects from point A to point B and help you look like a pro with all your clients. So check that out if interested. All right, guys, without further ado, enjoy my talk with my local friend and colleague, Alex Rogers of Alex's Social. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, it's good to be here, brother.
I am excited to have this chat with you because initially we were going to talk about social media marketing and Facebook advertising and things like that. And I'm sure we'll touch on some of those subjects. Maybe we can do a round 2 eventually targeted to that. But you talked to me about the idea of being a parent entrepreneur or a parent-preneur, as the cool kids say it these days.
Right.
So that's what we're going to focus on in this talk. And the cool thing about this is that we're going to kind of look at this from 2 different angles. One is, in your case, you were already a parent before you became an entrepreneur and started your own business. And then in my case, I had started my business when I was 23. I didn't have really any responsibilities or many bills. And then I'm having kids now as I've already got my business and entrepreneur, experience underway. So there's kind of 2 different ways to look at this. So I'm really excited to talk about this. I'm excited to hear about where you're at with your social media business and what that progression has looked like for you. But before we get to that, can you just tell us about your story? What were you up to before you decided to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, right on. So after college, I took the route that had nothing to do with college. I actually went into EMS. I was there for about 9 years. The last 2 years, while being on the road, I actually went into the marketing and operations space. So I got to do some, hands-on marketing, face-to-face clients, which turned into the digital part, which I really wanted to do, really loved. That company was based out of Detroit, but I was based here in Columbus. From there, I found an opportunity that I really wanted to take, based out of Portland. But then again, I stayed here with a little bit of traveling. It was for Keller Williams International. It was an expansion real estate company called Experience Real Estate. So I was the digital brand manager there. And after about a year, a little over a year, I decided I think I could do this on my own. People really love the work I do. I have enough contacts and connections, and I love people. So why not be here and be local? A lot of that had to do with life, how life was going, and I had the opportunity to spend more time with my children. So that was the guidance behind it. So
Gotcha. Now, so with the first company, how did you get into social media? As you know, you're working for an EMS company. How did that progress? Like, did you just dip your toe into doing Facebook and stuff? And then did you mention hey, I can probably do some advertisements for the company? How did that work?
yeah, right on. So actually, my partner, he was my partner for a long time, who's actually my partner in my business now, Alex Stewart for Alex's Social. We were partners on the road together, full time.
Oh,
So
I
we
didn't
were
know that.
together,
Okay.
yeah, nonstop. We actually lived a half mile from each other. One day we got paired up and we realized we were best friends. So work or off work, we were together. But we loved making mini videos and making creative stuff. That's how we kind of jived and connected. We kind of caught the eye of the operations manager at the time, making stuff about work, creative pieces that entertained people. And it kind of shifted. He gave us access to their Facebook page. Social media in healthcare, especially in EMS, isn't very big yet. It's kind of very hands off because not only do they, especially in the private sector, they don't have money for it, funds for it, but it's a very touchy subject,
Oh, I
especially
can.
with
Yeah, I can't
with
imagine.
emergencies and people's families. A lot of HIPAA violations go on, so they let us have access to that, and then the space kind of opened up to help them out do that. So
Gotcha. And then your time with Keller Williams, did you? So that was like a strictly social media marketing role, right?
actually, no, I did social. That was probably about 30% of it.
Oh,
The
okay.
others were so I managed about 8 different EMS companies from here to Detroit, over to Chicago, all over Ohio as well. So I did their websites as well as social media, and yeah, and then raw marketing materials. A lot of it had to do with you know hiring and recruitment. So
Now, I'm curious, man, what made you choose social media? You're doing websites, marketing. I know the pains and struggles with websites, as I'm sure you've experienced,
right.
although I love that part of the industry as well. But yeah, what made you want to zone in on social?
Because I experienced websites. Okay, so the big part of that was the gentleman who was before me, the guy that trained me for 1 week, and he was out. He left.
Mhm.
He did everything HTML5 and in Drupal. And I'm like, if this is how websites are done, I'm out. I didn't even know there was anything WordPress, anything
Divi
like
or
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
wonder,
and
no wonder you wanted to get out of there.
yeah. So I'm just like, what I literally did all day. I looked at coding, looked at a website. I would change like 3 little things. I had no clue. Change 3 little things, and it would mess up the whole thing. I'm like, what did I do? So I had to start writing down. I learned it that way,
Mm.
which is completely backwards. Then I love the social side. I mean, I love entertainment. I love creating stories. So I stuck with the social.
So you decided to go, you started to start your own business and go full time with that. I would love to talk about that because I'm sure there's a lot that went into that decision. Did you start with your partner, which I think Alex is behind you? For those watching on YouTube, he's got a green screen and Alex is on the other side. I know you guys are renovating your office right now.
Yeah.
Did you guys plan that together, or how did that work? Like when you started your business?
Yeah. So Alex and I had kicked around and joked about it for years, probably since 2012 or 2013. We had taken on a couple side mini projects of social media here and there, but nothing huge. After I left the EMS marketing operations position, Alex moved into that position and excelled way beyond my means, just the analytical pieces. So I went to Keller Williams, and then after I left Keller Williams, there was about a year in between. So I was just freelancing at that point. Picked up a couple clients, just enough to make bills, charging
Mm.
people, in retrospect, a stupid number. Now it hurts to look at it. We all do.
Yeah.
So
You're
just
probably
enough.
spending money to get clients kind of deal.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was literally just enough to make 3 bills. No diaper money, no milk, no nothing.
Mm.
And uh, so I did that for about a year freelancing, trying to convince Alex along the way. And then about a year into it, almost 11 months into it, I said, hey, let's take the jump. He had had enough with his old job and jumped right in. And it's scary. I mean, as you know, entrepreneurship, you make your money or you don't make your money, you're all to blame. So, yeah, we both have, 2 kids and bills to pay. So it was a tough jump, but yeah, I finally convinced him. I think it was at a Fiesta Mariachi on the west side of Columbus. I'm like, dude,
nice.
We got to do it. And he's like, I'm all in.
You know what? Mexican restaurants have some of the best business deals. It's because it's after a margarita when you're like, let's do it.
Yeah, he was staring at the ground. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." And I was just like, "Wait a minute, are you kidding?" Because I had a margarita, So I was just like, "Oh my god!"
Now, okay, and when was that? When did you guys actually start Alex's Social?
I believe it was October 23rd, 2018. Correct.
2018. Okay, yeah. So it's just over a year old, right?
Yep, we just did our 1 year anniversary.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome, man. And I know it's been a wild ride and you guys have done some really cool stuff. And I've appreciated your expertise with Facebook. A while back, I was having an issue with my Facebook profile, which I still do. I can't freaking post videos on my desktop normally.
I have to go around.
We got that workaround. You showed me how to go into publishing tools, and you guys have some real. And you showed me we just did a screencast for a little bit, and you showed me some really cool things in the back end of Facebook, which I think we'll do some targeted trainings on that because it's fascinating. But I guess I asked that to say, did you feel like you knew enough about Facebook and marketing in general to provide clients enough value to go full time? Did you kind of have to wait till you felt like, okay, I'm confident to do this and make enough to make it before you really launch the business?
Yeah, no, honestly, I've gotten that question a lot from people that I know personally, because they're like, well, because I never talk about it, but it's my passion. It literally is my geeky passion. Like, what do you do for fun? Oh, I look up, anything and everything that has to do with social media, from analytics down to new tools, beta testing. I beta test a lot of the Facebook stuff right now that you guys are going to see, months, 6, 12 months to come. And I feel like if I didn't know it, nobody's going to know it. I mean, that's how I felt about it, because I keep looking for stuff to learn and there's nothing else to learn. So, once I started talking to people, you realize how much you do know, because you start talking on a tangent and they're just like, okay, well, I asked one answer and now I'm getting 30 answers, So.
And it's interesting when you're talking about making that jump to going full time, you not only did you have your income and your family to provide for, but you've got the other Alex as well. So you've got 2 partners, which the cool thing about that, I imagine, is you guys were probably able to, you were able to grow twice as fast with a company the first year because you've got 2 of you. Now, do you guys have different skill sets? Is one of you better than sales and the other? Is one of you better than tech? Or what does that look like with your guys' partnership?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the huge advantages going into it was I knew, and we both know that you can only grow so much. You hit your maximum. And once you start, asking for help or contracting people, it's way different. But we knew we could grow twice as fast and take on twice the load, and get more work done and professionally, a little bit more, to the T, to give people higher quality product. So bringing Alex to the table, and he'll tell you straight up that if I could give everybody everything for free, because it is that passion and it's fun, I would have. And so when I first brought Alex on and, clients had starting to come to us, potential clients, he was like, okay, stop before you give them a price. What's your time worth? And I know I've watched a podcast and learned a couple things, from you as well, about, what is your time? You need to value your time, in money, because I love giving people, free advice, learned the hard way, giving people, talking to potential clients. They take all the information you have and they run with it and they do it themselves. If it's not that technical aspect, but Alex is very good at, kind of analyzing, what's the time worth, the product itself. He brings that to the table. And also I've always called Alex my creative think tank, because he has a very big passion for video games. And I lost my imagination with Legos when I was about 9.
Gotcha.
I'm very creative, but my creativity only goes so far. And he sees things that I definitely do not.
Interesting. That sounds like a good partnership then. Is he more of like the CFO as far as like the chief financial, like he's maybe more numbers oriented and business, to where I know, knowing you for a long time, you're more interactive and you're a people person. And I'm sure you would much prefer to be talking with clients and, being the face of the business kind of thing.
Yeah. And when we started growing our business exponentially, and a good number of our clients are in Grove City itself. And I've been in the community a long time, so that kind of helped a key jumpstart to the whole business. And then once people started seeing other clientele that we were working for, even down the street from them, it kind of brought it in. We can honestly say we've probably spent about $10 total in advertising in 1 year for ourselves, because it's all been word of mouth.
All word of
and
mouth.
That $10 is actually 2 different Facebook posts of videos that were funny of us. And we're like, we want more people to see that.
So let's talk about that. I want to talk about how you guys essentially went from 0 to 60 with targeting a local market. Before we do, though, one question I meant to ask was, did you guys have any accounts in place or any recurring revenue when you started the business? Or was it really just a leap of faith, like project to project kind of deal?
It was a leap of faith, month to month, project to project.
Wow. Okay. Now, when you got started, though, I imagine with social media, do you hook clients in for like a 3-month marketing campaign or 6-month or something like that? How does that work with social media?
So we have people that are more long-term. A lot of our clientele, especially when we started out, but still on that basis, we give them that month-to-month basis of that contract, but they have a timeout. They need to tell us, in advance, because we do schedule some content and create content ahead of time.
Oh, sure.
So we give them that out. However, a lot of those people staying in contact, especially in social media, we're literally with so many different clients answering texts and messages and phone calls all day long, because if we're not physically at their location, we need to know what's going on, because either they have items to sell, services to sell, there's events going on, there's big things that are happening in their demographics. So we're in a constant basis with them, and the more you nurture those relationships, the longer you're going to keep those clients. Even if they have little dime to spend on marketing or social media, they're going to try to hang on to it.
Let's talk about how you like practically got clients, and then maybe we could segue in to talk about being a parent-preneur, since that's the overall topic. Because one reason I wanted to talk about your story and your business is because you had all this going on with, quite frankly, a lot of pressure on your shoulders. You had mouths to feed and you had bills to pay. Again, I started my business when I was 23. I really didn't need to make too much the first couple years because I had very low overhead. So how did you guys, you really took it, again, 2 people with kids, you guys went from 0 to 60. You talked about, we're both in Grove City, which is outside of Columbus, Ohio, for people who don't have a reference of where we're at. We're just out of Columbus, which I think, thank goodness for both of us, Columbus is booming. So a lot of companies are needing websites and marketing and social media. Did you hone in on your personal relationships that you had to start, and then it just kind of grew from there? Or what did that look like?
Yeah. So, okay. There are still, I think people have gotten the idea of it, especially the past couple months. And honestly, all do. There was a magazine that came out for Grove City, our big magazine, and I was right on the front. So then people actually knew the story of what I did. But for a long time, I would say the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, even I would say 1 or 2 people now that don't get out much, don't know or didn't know what I did whatsoever. I was literally walking the streets of our city. I was going in, helping people put cookies on baking sheets in a bakery. I was going in, talking to people every day. I just became like, that I wouldn't say the town drunk because I wasn't drinking, but you know what I mean? The townie that just came in and started talking. They're like, we have no clue what you do. Building those relationships along the way. I know it sounds like a really bad sales proposal, but honestly, I gained their trust. And when they did realize, what I did for a living, they're like, we really need that. Or if they happen to mention it, I would say that. And then, referrals started coming in like crazy. I would say maybe one person that I actually knew from before was a client. Other people just happened to learn about me.
New relationships and just person to person. you're building that know, like, and trust
Yeah. And it
feature
was just
before. Yeah.
every day, just keep going in. And I would never ask them if they need help. I would never ask them if they need this service. I built solid relationships. And when it came around to it, I've invested, I planted all these seeds along the way. And you wouldn't believe, between Alex and I, people are calling. They're like, "Hey, you do social media, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, like, we really need some help." And that was somebody I talked to 6, 7, 8 months ago, so.
Now, you mentioned the magazine, and I think
Yeah.
that's very worthwhile talking about, because it was I don't know if you paid for that. So maybe, was there a fee to be on the cover of the magazine or anything?
No, they approached me, and I thought it was spam email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, our city, for folks who don't know, our city, which I guess most cities have some sort of like county or city magazine. And yeah, one day I'm at my favorite coffee shop. I think I was writing my business course. I think this was a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a few months ago. I'm writing the business course, and I'm in line getting a coffee, and I look over and I see your face in the magazine on the stand, and then you walk in with Alex, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is this you?"
Right.
So the cool thing about that, though, in all seriousness, is that gave you some legitimacy, didn't it? Like, people saw you, they got your story. And did you find that helped with landing clients and taking those relationships to the next level?
Yeah, most definitely. I think it built, like you said, I think it built a little bit of credit on my end. Not only did people see it, current clients were really excited. They knew that they were actually, dealing with somebody that's out there, that's doing a lot for the community. A lot of it was based upon why I became an entrepreneur. Other ventures, I'm in with right now. But I think we gained maybe one client, maybe two. Other people have contacted us. We didn't take them on board, but it definitely helped, lead. So
it's a big step. Like, I think that's just a worthwhile idea there, is to just put yourself in some sort of position as an expert, whether it's doing thought leadership videos or just talking about what you know. Or in that case, do it, because that wasn't even an ad for the business per se, as much as just your story, right? Like, it was just kind of talk about you and your story, and that led to a couple clients who, that paid off tenfold, obviously.
Yeah.
So where you're at right now, like, let's talk about the whole parent thing, because I'm really fascinated about, like, today I just released an episode with a guy who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but Randy Brown, who. He was 46. He went from being a manufacturing engineer to starting his freelance writing business, and just went for it. Family to feed, no other income streams, just went for it. Did you guys have like a fallback or any sort of plan B, or what? Like, did you just go for it and say, "Hey, if this doesn't work out in a few months, we'll have to figure something out"? What did that whole thing look like for you?
Yeah, I'd love to say that I have the most incredible drive and don't give up, but we all have breaking points. There were probably 2 different times, that I got on Indeed, got on hiring sites, and looked at it, and like 4 or 5 in, I'm like, "No, tomorrow I'm just going to try harder. I can't give up. I've started." That was, 2 times over 11 months. And I'm like, if I don't hit this point, I'm going to do it. Alex and I had some serious, come to Jesus heart to hearts. And it was just like, if we can't make this, I got to do, something supplemental to help. And I think Alex had pushed me a couple of times, and he said, "We're going to make it, we're going to do it." And I'm like, it's especially in a partnership, it's you got to carry each other along the way.
How valuable is that, having a partner to come alongside you? Because I'm sure you've had to do it to him as well. If you guys have your high and lows that balance each other out. I know most solopreneurs are going to do that, and unless they have a support system, or like in the Divi community, it's a very tight-knit. I know you're not using Divi per se, but it's a very tight-knit community to where it's very supportive. So if you're having those doubts and those really rough seasons, you can have people to kind of vent to and get some encouragement, where, like, luckily you had that as well. Because when you're first in the venture, like, I was trying to think back when I started my business and I like officially went for it. It was about 1.5 years in. That was the only time where I had like no work going on. I had done a bunch of smaller projects and stuff, and I think it was like the beginning of 2012. I just had like nothing on board, and I was like, I don't know, like, is this even possible? And again, luckily I didn't have many bills at that time, but I was like, should I just give up? And then it seems like once I just got past that like month or so, it just spiraled from there. Like referrals just started pouring in. It's like once I just had to get past that little rough patch. And that's the last time, knock on wood, that's the last time I've ever been in a situation where we didn't have a ton of stuff to do. So,
right. It's that entrepreneur ride. I think I saw a funny GIF on Facebook not too long ago. It's the daily life of an entrepreneur. It's like, man, I'm going to kill this day. I'm at 100%. And then it's like, emails are okay. I'm feeling all right. And it's like, how am I going to make it? I need a job, and then 20 minutes later, it's like, I just got a new client, sort of thing. So it is an emotional roller coaster. And you were talking about that first push, that jump. When I knew in order to build the business more than I could build it myself, bringing Alex on, it's only, it's math. It's simple math. I had to take a huge cut. I'd gotten, my clients to this point. I'm like, if we're going to take these clients on, I got to take a huge cut financially for me in hopes that, we double that. And, it was for the long-term payoff. And that's hard. I mean, that's huge. Alex took a big pay cut from going from corporate to here. And I took it from freelance to half freelance. So, wow, it's, but you have to have complete faith, in something. And to feed the kids, that's all the drive that you need. So,
and the freedom you get with it. I mean, isn't it just awesome? Like that's the trade-off.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I do. So I mentor high school students twice a month, an entrepreneurship program at my alma mater, Grove State High School. And then I actually just got involved in a program that I think you sent along to me. Yeah.
The media advisory board.
Yeah. I went there. Their studio. I'm so envious of these high school kids. They've got the perfect setup.
Kids these days,
right?
Back in our
when
day,
I had my flip phone, and when I was
we
a
had our
senior,
flip phones in high school. Yeah.
Right. I had a pager too, but I don't want to brag. So, so being able to mentor, being able to go to all of my kids, school outings, if my kids are sick, being able to stay home and being able to work from the couch is killer. It kind of hurts when you're looking for new clientele, but honestly, we form our schedules, around the needs of our family. So.
And that, like the mentor stuff you're doing, that will pay off in so many ways. I think not only, I just feel like, not to get all karma-y, but like when you do a good deed, it comes back around to you in some way.
Totally. 100%.
The mentoring thing, like for me, I'm still on the board for the multimedia advisory board for a different high school in our area. But for a while, I was going in like once a quarter, and they would give me a couple students, and I would teach them about web design or print design or whatever. Most of them were interested in like video game design, but a few of them were really interested in what I was doing. And I remember how rewarding that felt when somebody was like, their eyes were glued and they were just like pumped to see what I was doing. And they were like, you get to work from home? Like you don't have to go anywhere? And I'm like, not unless I have a meeting or something, or if I want to go to a coffee shop. And like, oh my gosh, like that kind of thing really fueled me to start this endeavor, which is teaching other web designers how to build their own businesses. So I know it'll come around for you. And that actually, I'm trying to think of like monetarily of that. I think that opened doors to a couple projects a couple years ago. Like you just never know where that kind of thing, and particularly social media. I imagine you guys have different levels to where like a big website is a big investment to where a lot of smaller businesses, they may not be ready to put up $3 or $4 or $5 grand, but with social media, you could probably get people in at a smaller price range depending on the needs and go up from there. So
correct.
I imagine the doors could open, really wide for that kind of thing.
Yeah, they were. And it's not like, we moved from, small mom and pop that, could only afford, $200-$300 a month, to looking at 1,000+ projects, still for the same amount of money or the same amount of time and, content that we were producing. So it's not that we won't help those, along the way, because honestly, we'll still go on consults where we know there might not come out of it, but the connections that we've made through those, some of those people are our biggest followers, biggest fans. They like every video we put out. They're constantly sharing our content, and that it spreads. It's an organic spread. So
now let's talk about, I'm curious about your guys' schedule and what your days look like with having, how old are your kids?
Mine are 5 and 6 right now.
5 and 6. So wild ages. How do you, what's your day-to-day look like? Like, what's that look like?
Every day is different, honestly. It could be a day of, Alex and I started, on a side note, Alex and I started doing influencer pieces. Um, People in Grove City realized and around the surrounding areas that, we can, 46,000 people we can reach organically with some of our posts, as Alex's social and as, our own personal profiles. And so people started asking us to come to a restaurant for free. We went ziplining not too long ago.
Oh, that's right. I saw that.
Yeah. We got a chance to zip line all day long and ride segways, out in the woods down in Hocking Hills. Those are really cool because they know, they're going to have to put $800, $1,000 to reach organically that many people around them when they could just give us, that kind of content for free.
Okay, so they just let you do it and then just let you guys share it and do your thing.
Yeah, they just ask us, to share the word. So, and we love creating content. So we're like, hey, why not? Let's take a Thursday off and go do it. So our daily, opposed to that, our daily could be anywhere from, we wake up in the morning, we spend time with our family. I get my kids off to school, the bus, and I drive them to school, and then sit down and start creating content, whether it be at a coffee shop, in the office. They come over here to our other office at Alex's house. We create content. We talk about any future clientele meetings that were coming up. We could be meeting with 2, 3 potential clients in a day at different coffee shops. And then in the afternoon, we kind of look at analytics. We look at the things that are coming up ahead in our schedules. You'll see videos. We'll spend lunchtime making, entertainment for other people. But that entertainment it's strategic. Honestly, it really is strategic. That following and people to share, people want to know more about your business. So we do have a little bit of fun. It looks a little bit reckless and crazy, but it's all for good purpose. People appreciate who we are and our natural humor. So,
do you try to stick with a schedule? I know it depends on, kids' school times and stuff like that, but do you find yourself working typical hours in a week?
Typical hours, roughly, I would say on average, about 9 in the morning after kids are off to school. You get yourself situated. Unless we worked on a project last night till about 6:30. But that's not the norm usually, when everybody's off work and the kids are home. So we're looking at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So.
Yeah. And then I imagine evening, maybe, some stuff to catch up on or whatever.
Depending not only that, but answering rogue comments and messages that comes along with managing social people. So.
Yeah. How do you do that with social media? Like that's one thing I'm learning because the trap I found myself in is I run a Facebook web design group that's almost 20,000 people now. I have my joshhall.co Facebook page, which is getting a lot more engagement now, which is pretty cool. It's my favorite thing that I'm really active on. I have 3 course groups for Facebook groups for my courses. And that's not even including YouTube comments or my website comments. So I'm kind of like, I would do comments sporadically for the longest time. And now I'm like trying to segment certain times in my day to where like we're doing this call, I'm not looking at anything else, phone's off. After this call, I'll probably jump on, answer some comments, do some emails, and then take a break for lunch. Like I'm trying to segment my time for that. Do you guys have barriers like that in place as well? Or with social media is it a little more tricky?
It's a little bit more tricky with social media. Usually we, Alex and I, connect without really thinking about it. That came along with EMS, being able to assess situations, not say anything, but how the other one's feeling. But sometimes we are vocal. I'll tell Alex, I'll be like, we get the same notifications. I'll tell him, I'm going to this school event or spending time with my family, and where Alex will be like, I'm kind of shot for the day. Can you look over it? So it's a very give relationship. But there are rogue times. We had an instance not too long ago where there was some bad blood at one of our clients, but it spread very rapidly on a different page other than ours. So once we caught wind of it, it got out of control. It spiraled. A whole city got involved. So it's kind of managing those pieces, how you professionally manage it, but you're not speaking for yourself, and it's not coming from your profile. So your clients really need to trust you at all hours of the day to manage those things in a professional manner. So,
Gotcha. Now, how did you're connected with Facebook?
Correct.
How did that come about? Do you have to like go to any trainings to become somebody that's I hate to say like on the inside, but you do like I don't know what you would call it, but like you are connected with Facebook. How does that
Correct.
work?
Yeah. So Facebook came out with a global program. It's called Facebook Community Leadership Circles. It was in 103 cities around the world. They chose Columbus as one of those cities, as a growing city for digital media. So I had talked to some people. Actually, it was a Facebook Community Boost meeting here in town. Facebook had come to town. Sheryl Sandberg was here speaking, and I had voiced, an interest in the position. Being the community lead, the program was, coming up. They had already started one cohort, and the second one had just started. So I was a part of the third cohort. Columbus was, and yeah, it was a very weird, very anonymous situation. If I had to tell you the whole story, you'd probably be like, "Oh, that's like you joined the CIA or NSA." It was just really odd, and when they said it, I couldn't believe it. So I'm the global lead for Columbus, Ohio. So I am the pretty much the point of contact for any group admins, page admins for Columbus. I get allotted so much, money a year on Zuckerberg's credit card to go ahead and and wine and dine and teach. So I'm here to empower and to teach group admins because, as you know, it takes a good portion of your life, and a lot of times you're not doing it for money. A lot of these people they have the biggest groups, that I admin. I have a lot of admin are community groups, and they're not for profit. Nothing Alex is social is going in there. It's all because you have a love of your community or love for, helping animals, gaming, you name it. There's groups for anything. Facebook commercial doesn't lie about that. So I'm kind of that point of contact for training, for help. I give these group admins access to beta products. They get a direct line, which is hard to do with Facebook.
Yeah. And I know when I reached out to you with the issue I was having with my profile, you kind of let me know what was up ahead with some of the UI changing with Facebook profiles. And that was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, you kind of know what's on tap. So I promise I'm not going to be hitting you up too much for inside advice, but it is nice to have somebody who, like I was able to rely on you because I had sent something in. Of course, you're never going to hear from Facebook. You're not going to be able to hear from support.
The bot catches it quick, and
So it felt good to have some expertise, for hearing from your end as somebody who's kind of on the inside. But it's pretty cool because you got to travel to Berlin not that long ago, right? Like you've done some cool travels.
Yeah, I've been all over. I've been to Dallas, to Berlin, went to Pittsburgh, went to Jordan. And I went to Amman, Jordan not too long ago. That was fun. Get to speak at all these different places about community leadership engagement, and how people manage not only themselves as an admin, but to create engaging communities as a professional.
Yeah, and I know you talked about it not translating directly, like monetarily, but for you in that case, like I imagine it builds up a professional notoriety to you and your brand. Like I'm sure in some way that's going to benefit where you're at in your career right now, whether it's, just other opportunities that lead to more business or opening doors to potential new partnerships. There's all kinds of things because I've had to have that mindset with my group as well, because like my group is so big now, it's more of a support group than anything. And I don't make any, like it's technically on the books, it's very costly for me to do that because I don't make any money from it. So But what I know it does is it kind of elevates my status as an expert in the field, and just saying that I have a group of 20,000 people is like, oh wow, this guy is legit, and that will eventually, that leads into course sales and other things. But
and definitely there are people in the groups that lead groups of the numbers range that I will never even touch. We're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of people. These people admin every day, and it's not only, I'm support for them. I learned so much from these people, their situations, because it's about experience. And I've taken that information. Not only do I teach them, but I'm taking that information and applying to my groups, and they can only build from there. So.
Yeah. What would you say? Because it's an interesting journey. Like I've talked to a lot of people so far on the podcast who have started their businesses. The one commonality is that everyone just goes for it. There's never that story where they just do it on the side and they build it up perfectly and they have a nice retainer of money and they have a fallback plan. Like everyone just goes for it. And I think that's so valuable. This one's a little bit different just because of your position and with your partnership with Alex. What would you say you have learned? Like, what are some of the top lessons you've learned with running your own business? I'm sure there's thousands, but like, what have you learned about yourself? What are some of those top things that you've learned since doing this? And I know you're still early in the journey, but I imagine the amount of growth that you've experienced in year one has been amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely been a ride. I would say going into that. So going into the entrepreneur space, going into the freelancer space, because I had never done something like that full time. I've always had 9 to 5 healthcare, I would say my position was a little bit different going into the freelancer space, in my mindset. I had just gotten through, was going through a divorce, and I knew that I wanted to be with my kids more. So that was the drive to get there. The other mindset behind it was, I had lost an 18-month-old son a couple years before, and that mindset of things can always be worse, and there are so many more important things. I could not have time with my children today. I could not have my children at all. So taking it day by day, you kind of value little things a little bit more. The learning part of going into the partnership with Alex, and Alex has quoted this quite a few times, that there was a reason you don't do business with family or friends. And it's not for anybody that's looking into going into a partnership. I love you. You can hear him giggling.
Yeah, I heard him giggling in the background.
Yeah, right. We've had our, like I said, coming to Jesus moments. We've had screaming matches, and we never have that before. Coming to tears, because we have to provide for our families. Our families are depending on us, and it's hard because all of the things that go into a business, it's difficult, financially, time, and everything else. So learning from year one is taking a step back. And because of the experiences that we've had already, we could lose a client. But think about the last month when we gained 3 clients. There's that entrepreneur ride. It takes time to experience to know that things may look bad right now, but tomorrow they're going to be way better. And everything that you do, especially in the design area that you're in, the social media, we're creating content, whether it's websites, whether it's creative work, it's our portfolio, and everybody sees it all the time. You get into it because hopefully you got into it because you love doing it. You love designing, and everything that you design every day is some sort of seed going into something else. Somebody's going to see it and be like, man, who did that, sort of thing. So even if today's bad, you can always do something to help your future.
That's great, man. There's some valuable points. And something you said there was kind of echoed my Tuesday quick tip from a couple days ago or yesterday. Well, yeah, today's Wednesday. It was yesterday. I talked about when you get started, you're going to feel things on a much deeper level. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn as an entrepreneur, particularly a new entrepreneur or solopreneur or parentpreneur, is you have to not be too high or too low. Because when you get a client and you get a new project, it's like the best feeling in the world, and you're so energized and you're pumped and it's amazing. And then the next day or even later that afternoon, you can have a bad situation going on, or a client leaves or something like that. And it can be devastating, and you can be really down. And I know for us in the web design community, when there's issues going on with sites, or people's sites aren't converting as well, or it's not helping their business or something like that, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. And it can be very, if you're going to feel it no matter what, but you have to keep that in check. And that's different from the corporate world. I'm sure you've seen that too, where when you're working for a company, if you get a new project or if something's not going great, it's like, oh, that might be cool or that might suck, but you're probably not losing too much sleep over it. When it's your baby as a business, you feel it deeply. So yeah, super, super valuable. And I appreciate you being transparent, man, about, some of the stuff you went through, because I knew about some of that stuff. And I think, first of all, I just can't imagine. I mean, you went through some dark periods, I know, but I think one thing to take from that was the value of freedom and time with your kids, like that, which I can tell just by talking with you, that was the underlying move, I imagine, for starting your own business. Because when you were traveling a lot back then, I know, and those are roles where Like I'm learning that with my kids now. Well, our second one's coming any day here now.
Right.
I'm so thankful that I'm to the point right now to where, yes, there's a ton of stress and there's a lot more, like we have a lot more bills that I have to cover and there's a lot more responsibility, but the time and freedom, it's just so valuable. I mean, I imagine, like to my point earlier, I imagine you don't regret making that move at all, despite all the times where you might be like, oh gosh, I need to get a real job now, or,
Right.
those moments, I imagine just, to your point, like spending more time with your kids, that's part of the driver.
And you always talk to, older generations or elders, and they're always like, man, they grow up, you close your eyes and, they're already grown up. And if more than 5-10 people have told you that in your life, it must be true. They've learned something that we haven't. So to take that in consideration, find more time, with the family and my kids, and it's worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah. I had a friend a good buddy of mine, like his dad was just the typical blue collar worker guy. He worked full time and he worked a second job just so they could pay their house off early and they could have all their bills covered and everything. But my friend always kind of felt disconnected from his dad. And what happened? By the time he was out of the house, well, they finally had the house paid off for, and then he could retire, but he retires to an empty home.
Yep.
There's that. I think that's shifted, to your point, dramatically, as like we've been fortunate to learn from older generations. And let's face it, with technology now, the landscape has never looked like this. And this is why I'm so passionate about doing what I'm doing right now with empowering people to start their own businesses, particularly in web design, but it could be anything. It could be social or photography or video or whatever. You can do whatever the heck you want from a computer screen, no matter where. Like you could do it from home, you could do it in a coffee shop, and you can make dang good money if you work hard enough and if you're working smarter, not harder. And I don't know. I love that. Like I don't take that for granted every day, because like we are in a very rare position in time right now to where 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, what you and I are doing right now look completely different.
Yeah. No, it wasn't there
Or
whatsoever.
wasn't there.
15 years ago, my flip phone wasn't doing that. But honestly, it's something I preach to to these entrepreneur kids when I mentor. I'm like, if you really tried hard, if you were really serious about it and you wanted to do social media, you can make more than your parents do right now as a senior in high school. There's so many opportunities and it's right in your pocket. So.
Yeah, that's funny. I told that to I specifically remember one of the kids that was interested in what I was doing. I think he worked at Wendy's or McDonald's or something. And I was like, dude, listen, however much you make, let's say you make $1,000 this summer working for McDonald's. If you learned how to build a website and you could sell websites for $500 and you did 4 websites this summer, you could make double what you're making, and you could work wherever, whenever, I think that really got the kids like, holy crap. Yeah, I can do this. It really doesn't take too long to get valuable enough to where you can make some pretty dang good money, at least a lot more than you would work in fast food or retail or something like that.
Yeah. And there was one point, I forget who it was, but it was last year. I was actually speaking at a networking meeting and how to grow your business with social media. And somebody said, well, you're the expert. And that was the first time I had heard that. And I'm just like, I was just like, wait, why would somebody think that about me? Because, of course, we're our biggest critics, ourselves. But I'm just like, why would somebody think that about me? But every question they had, I had a very well-educated answer. I was like, oh, so you have to have, it's scary, but you have to have confidence along the way. So you'll gain it.
Yeah, you'll gain it. And then I found, it comes with experience. It can come with trainings, workshops, courses. I'm huge, not only as a course creator, but as somebody who takes courses. And
Same.
You pointed out early in the episode talking about time, that it's one of the most important assets. And that's, for me, that's like the biggest thing I've learned. And that's what I try to tell people who are just starting out. Even if it seems like a big investment, if there's some sort of workshop or there's a training or there's a course that will get you from point A to point B and will save you time, that's what you need to invest in. And it sounds like you've kind of, learned that as well, particularly being in the entrepreneurial space. But yeah, for kids coming up, like it's very difficult to have that mindset. I think it probably, unless you're told that, unless you comprehend that from somebody like and trust, it's probably going to be lived and learned the hard way.
Right.
But yeah, it's so valuable, man. And yeah, it's one I almost hate to get all like kids these days, but I kind of wonder if they, and I don't know, like maybe I need to get more connected with the advisory board I'm a part of and the kids again. But like, I just kind of wonder if they even realize how unique and rare this time in history is. You know, like to your point, we graduated together in 2005.
Right.
Okay, 2005. If we wanted to do something online, let's see, MySpace had just come out, right? So
right.
It was like,
when I went to Miami, it was the first week I was there. I didn't have a laptop, but I got a new desktop computer, and Facebook had just come out. It was for
right.
only college students that had .edu emails, and I got that. And literally, you could post a picture, but most people, you'd have to stick an SD card or an XD card, in a computer, and upload those because you couldn't do it from your phone yet.
Right.
I had internet on my phone. There was like a free hour in the evening for Verizon. My flip phone I could get. So I could download ringtones, So
Oh,
I mean, there was no way to do that at that point. So there, online, maybe got into stocks. I don't know, but that's not even an entrepreneur piece at that point.
And I was trying to think back. I loved like art classes and stuff, but Photoshop was fairly new at that time, and like it's funny. Like oddly enough, what I do now is just completely opposite of what I would have thought. I was terrified by Photoshop back then. I remember trying it, and I was never good with computers. I got a D in typing, and I blog for a career now. Like I write for a career. So It's kind of funny, like the academic stuff back then. It just did not translate to what.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking not too long ago. I'm like, man, Alex and I create literally digital artwork all day long for content. We're either messing with pictures or creating stuff from scratch, images from scratch. And I took drawing my senior year because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take an easy class. I don't want to be here all day. I already had to take two. I did one elective. I took drawing. It was the first time I didn't make honor roll, AB honor roll. My dad was livid, God rest his soul, because I thought it was going to be easy. And now I'm creating images every day. Yeah, it's not with my hand, but I'm creating images. And I'm looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have taken photography, because that's my biggest passion right now. And I'm like, oh, that's silly. I thought I would see you, with a hit rock band back then, playing the drums. Right? And now look at you.
Well,
waiting on a kid in your living room.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? The band experience for me though, like, I mean, we did get a little bit of success. We had national radio play, and we got to travel.
I went to a lot of concerts, man.
Yeah, you were at some shows. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about that was we broke even, which is more than most bands can say. Like, we didn't end up spending money in the end. But I will say, I'm going to do a podcast soon about, which I have a blog post on my In Transit Studios site, but I'm going to kind of do a new version of it. And it's how being in a band helped me start my business, because it really, I'll tell you one thing, that experience translated more than any academic experience I ever had. Because you learn how to deal with people, you learn how to deal with personalities, you learn about marketing, you learn about making a product, you learn about demographics. Those terms I never even thought of while we were doing it. And at the end of the band days, I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, demographics, marketing, product, like all these value proposition, like all these things. I'm like, oh, we could have done so much better. But it all kind of came to the forefront. I was able to use that in the business, which is, I think that's just worthwhile. Even like your story, you were doing different roles in the corporate world, but they translated to your business. That's one cool thing about when you're in any sort of creative field, you can pull from your past and your experiences, no matter where you came from. Yeah.
And I think not too long ago, maybe a week ago, I say it a lot. I'm like, you imagine, Alex, because we had this vision, 8 years ago. And we would sit on we'd be sitting in an ambulance, waiting to get a patient, sitting, in an ER somewhere. And we'd be like, man, would it be cool if we could just, do this creative stuff, on our computer somewhere. So the other week, and it happens a lot. The other week I was telling Alex, I'm like, hey man, I was like, you imagine us sitting in a truck right now? I wish we could have done this, 15 years ago. And he told me, he was like, you know what? That experience was worth it. You know what I mean? The skills that we gained back then, especially professionally, are you can't get those anywhere else. So.
Yeah, translated to what you're doing now.
And it's a cool story along the way. So.
Oh, absolutely, man. Awesome. Well, Alex, this has been great, dude. We've talked about some really cool things, and we covered your story and kind of where you came from and what you were doing in the corporate world to starting your guys' business. Very interesting, again, being a parent-preneur back then, having much more responsibility. more weight on your shoulders, but I imagine, it was so worthwhile. And to your point, I appreciate you again being really transparent about some of the stuff you went through, because you went through some shit, man. And, luckily, again, if anything, like, it just probably made you appreciate time and freedom that you have now with your kids. And I know things are looking up and things have gone well for the business. And, I know it's in the beginning, so who knows where it's going to go from here, but you've learned a heck of a lot in this first year. So I'm excited for you, man.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, hey, do you have like a final thought for anybody who is maybe a parent and they're thinking about being an entrepreneur? Do you have any, like, a parting thought?
Yeah. So
Alex 2 years ago, what would you tell Alex 2 years ago?
Oh, Alex 2 years ago. Well, shave your face, smile more. No, I honestly, one of the biggest questions I get from people, random messages, is I want, I've got this business I want to do, or I've got this idea, but I don't know when's okay to jump. I don't know when to take, that leap. And I would say there is no right time. I know financial is big, especially when people ask me. It's because they have a family. They've got to feed people. Maybe they're the breadwinner, maybe it's equal. But as long as you're passionate about it and you have a drive to do it, there's no right time. Just jump. Like being a parent. Nobody trains you to be a parent. You're never ready to be a parent, or a second time or a third time parent. It happens, and you do it along the way and you learn.
Valuable point, man. Yeah, particularly as a parent with kids. I've heard some people tell it to us. They're like, well, we're going to wait till we're, like, financially ready before having a kid. I'm like, it ain't never going to happen. You're going to work it out. You'll figure it out. And you'll make more money when you have kids, because you have no choice. You're going to figure stuff out. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome, man. Well, this was great, Alex. Thanks again for chatting, for taking some time out of your day to chat with us and give us some really valuable, actionable things. I think this is going to help a lot of people, whether it's designing websites or whether they may want to take on social media. We'll definitely do like a round 2 sometime, or maybe do some trainings on, like, Facebook and social media specific stuff. So yeah, man, thanks again for your time. This was a blast.
I appreciate it.
All right, man. Talk soon.
See ya.
Hey guys and gals, just wanted to pop in with a couple things before you head out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other web designers find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to joshhall.co, click on podcasts, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.